Hello everyone, welcome to my political journalism news channel. The story for today is until recently, the city of Dnipro, where Natasha Doronin has been staying during Russia's invasion of Ukraine, was considered relatively safe within the country. That all changed on Friday, when Dnipro came under fire. 3 Russian airstrikes landed close to a kindergarten and apartment building, killing at least 1 person, state emergency services said. Although 2 million people are estimated to have fled Ukraine since Russia invaded, countless others have chosen to remain in the country. Some, including Ms. Doronin, cannot bear the idea of leaving their loved ones behind. The 46-year-old Kyiv resident said it's almost impossible to get to her 82-year-old father in her home city of Kharkiv, where he is stuck in a third-floor flat, unable to seek shelter due to mobility issues. The situation in Kharkiv is really difficult. The bomb attacks are happening almost every single second, she said. He can barely move around the house, so there's no chance he can go anywhere. Father is really frightened, but there is not much I can do right now because it's really dangerous. She calls her father, Volodymyr, every day, but the moments before he picks up fill her with dread as her mind races, thinking of what could have happened to him in the night. In the morning, when I start calling him, you know, that feeling for the first several seconds before he picks up the receiver, I've got all those awful thoughts in my head, she said. What if something happened? What if the house was ruined or exploded? It's really hard. She said the situation has become more desperate with the shops empty and food supplies dwindling. Even those neighbors who would be willing to help, they have nothing to share. So, they start starving themselves as well. Natalia traveled from Australia to Ukraine despite rumblings of war. Natalia Savicheva, 33, is a Ukrainian-Australian dual citizen who was separated from her family throughout the pandemic because of border restrictions. When borders reopened, she took a risk and traveled to central Ukraine in late December, knowing Russia could invade the country at any moment. But she said she would just go crazy if she wasn't there to support her family in Ukraine when the war broke out. We thought that it would be better if we are with the family at such hard times because I can't imagine what I would feel if I was in Australia whilst this war is happening in Ukraine, Ms. Savicheva said. Ms. Savicheva is living in a town near Dnipro, where she had felt relatively safe. She says she has been in contact with Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, DFAT, who have encouraged her to get out, but she said any decision to flee would be a difficult one. We're pleased to hear that they're DFAT thinking about us and they want us to leave, but at the same time we know that it would be better for us to stay with our families because we've got siblings here as well. In not leaving her alone here, Mary Ushakova stayed in Ukraine to care for her 70-year-old mother, who cannot travel long distances due to her health and age. My mother is elderly and I believe the older the person gets, the more difficult it is for them to move somewhere from their home, and I'm not leaving her alone here, she said. Ms. Ushakova's father is Russian and her mother is Ukrainian, and she said there is a kind of identity crisis in her home of Mykolaiv, a predominantly Russian-speaking city near the Black Sea in Ukraine's south. She said before the war, 90% of people in the city spoke Russian, but now more and more people are switching to Ukrainian. She said despite Russia shelling the city and air attacks destroying many buildings, the people still have hope. People are quite optimistic, as optimistic as possible in this situation, she said. Everyone believes that Ukraine will win. We are not and will never be a part of Russia in any possible way. Majority are staying and helping. Dmitry Yemet, 20, left Kyiv to be with his grandparents in Cherkasy, in central Ukraine, where he is volunteering. Me and my grandfather are making a lot of canned meat, for refugees and soldiers, he said. I'm also helping to make a camouflage net to hide positions of our army, roadblocks, and filling sandbags. Minority are going abroad, but majority are staying and helping our army, in different ways. Mr. Yemet said the people who decided to stay in Ukraine were scared and shocked, but united. Everyone is helping each other, a lot of people volunteering, everybody prepared to defend our home city, he said. I want to help to defend our country, to defend our culture and history. Russians once made a genocide of Ukrainians in 1930s and I don't want this to happen again, he said, referring to the man-made famine, known as Holodomor, engineered by Joseph Stalin's policies. Now Ukrainian East and West are, finally united, we forgot our disputes, and stand against the enemy together. I love this Kyiv, Arthur Karatanov, 26, said he and his family made the joint decision to stay in their home city, Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. But he said he did not join the army because he was not physically strong. Instead, each morning and night he patrols his shelter and prepares water and supplies. As president of the Liberal Democratic League of Ukraine (LDLU), Mr. Karatanov said he was working with international counterparts to pressure governments to implement sanctions against Russia and get information out about how international communities can donate toward Ukraine's army. I feel a responsibility to stay in Kyiv with teammates who are still there and especially nearby those who are fighting at this minute, he said. I feel my civilian responsibility to stay with them and to support them as I can. Mr. Karatanov grew up in the capital and said he had loved seeing his home turn into a thriving metropolis in recent years. It has become a very European capital. It is the heart of Eastern Europe, he said. I love this Kyiv, and this is one of my reasons why I stay here and to be with the city. That is all for today news. Thank you for watching to my channel. Please be sure to leave your comment and subscribe below for more news update.